Hello and welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Milwaukee Open, sponsored by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Alex Mihelic. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you today?
Pretty good. When people come up to me and they say, you've got to check out this guy's deck, that's usually just cue it right up for the deck tech spot. So I was told you're playing Tron.
Yes.
But you're playing Nicol Bolas Planeswalker as well as some other cards in it. So
yes.
You have what we're going to call Tron walkers.
Yep.
You've got the usual stuff, Ugin,
yep.
Karn, Ulamog, those things we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have said, you know, Tron's not where it's used to be. You don't have Ugin anymore. You don't have this inevitability.
Right.
So you've done something else. You've brought in this trio of Planeswalkers, Nicol Bolas, Garruk Apex Predator. We haven't seen that one in a while. And of course, the Johnny Vengeant. But you have this other engine with Oath of Nissa to go along.
Correct.
With your Ancient Stirrings as kind of your new dig package, and then you can finish them off with a plethora of Planeswalkers.
Exactly like you said it.
All right, so take us through how you kind of did that, which Planeswalkers didn't get the cut, and why these ones are the ones you chose to go with.
All right, so when I was building the deck, I was keeping in mind my love of playing all 5 colors in Magic decks. I've done it for years now, and I was like, you know what, how do I make a colorless deck all 5 colors? And I was just looking and it wasn't working, obviously, because just the mana base isn't there, and you just can't filter into all 5 colors effectively. Then when Oath of the Gatewatch came out, and they spoiled Oath of Nissa, I was looking at it, and having been building Tron at that time, I saw the wording on Oath of Nissa and had an epiphany. And I talked to a couple of my friends about it, and we looked at it and we were like, yeah, we can do this. Basically, the idea being, get to Tron and then start playing colored Planeswalkers off of colorless land. And it just sort of fell together. Mm-hmm. So when designing it, we knew that we were going to need some form of dig besides Ancient Stirrings, because Ancient Stirrings can't hit those colored Planeswalkers. Right. Great thing is, Oath of Nissa has that ability in there. Right. It allows me to search out a land, a creature, or a Planeswalker, 3 very critical things in any Tron deck. And then being able to hit one of those colored Planeswalkers, it's perfect.
Right. And now you made room for Oath of Nissa by trimming like a Sylvan Scrying and a Stirrings and some pieces here and there?
Yes, I made room for Oath by trimming Ancient Stirrings, Sylvan Scrying, Pyroclasm or Kozilek's Return, it's preferential, and an O-Stone. Most decks had been leaning towards a 3-3 split of O-Stone and Kozilek's Return, from what I could see anyway, to make room for 2 Relic, which seemed kind of useless to me at that point, seeing as how Control and Graveyard-based decks, other than maybe Abs and Coco, were being shifted out of the meta. So it wasn't a really big loss for me. Many times people sided them anyway. Cutting the Ancient Stirrings and the Sylvan Scrying was okay, because losing 1 Scrying, I'm getting a land grab off of Oath anyway. Maybe it's not from the whole deck, but it's from the top 3, which can be important.
Right.
Ancient Stirrings was a must cut, because grabbing into a Planeswalker off of Ancient Stirrings is bad. It's not colorless. I can't grab it. So cutting that was a natural choice anyway. And it sort of, like I said, just fell together and made room for that.
Okay. So we got Karn, Ugin. These guys have been around forever. Now, why these 3? Nicol Bolas seems pretty great on 8, and then of course Garruk seems pretty good too. But I got to know why these are the ones you're going with, because you got all the Planeswalkers in the multiverse to choose from.
Honestly, because of their mana cost. Most Tron decks that I had encountered and seen were running 3 to 4 Karn, 1 to 2 Ugins. That's a 7 and 8 drop. With colored mana being out of the question, I could run 7 and 8 drops. So Bolas came in because he's just a boss to bring out, and he fits into the curve perfectly for that turn 4 8 drop. Same thing with Garruk. Turn 3 Garruk, not a lot of people expecting that.
Right.
So they fit into that curve nicely. Bolas was an immediate choice because he destroys land, steals creatures if I need them, and then of course his ulti, which is you lose 7 permanents, you discard 7 and take 7 life. That is crippling for most decks.
Right. You're not going to run out of gas when you get to Ultimate Nicol Bolas.
No, and he does it in 2 turns, like Ugin. So very comparable effects going on. They just happen to offset each other in what they do. Garruk was a nice choice because if I'm going up against a mid-range deck that plays Planeswalkers, well, Garruk gets rid of Liliana's, gets rid of Elspeth's, gets rid of any other Planeswalkers that might be posing a problem. Also, the ability to put a 3/3 token with Death Touch gives me the ability to play on the defensive if I need, and provide a natural blocker for my planeswalkers. Then, of course, the ability to destroy a creature and then gain life equal to its toughness. If I'm going up against Burn or something that's running Spellskite where they're stealing my abilities, Garruk hitting those creatures and gaining that life will help, gain me that life and slow them down quite a bit.
Yeah, big issue with Tron against the Burn and the Zoo-style decks is you just run out of life. Outside of Wormcoil Engine, you don't have a lot of life there. That card does get you some room there.
Yeah.
Johnny also gains you life if you need to.
The built-in Helix ability is very nice, being able to strip away one of their resources and gain the life. Honestly, today, his big plus for me has been his +1, being able to keep something tapped. In my second round, game 3, I was getting pummeled by Crumble to Dust, and I was able to get a Johnny to resolve and then just uptick him every turn until he ultied, stripped away my opponent's lands, and then I was able to get Garruk to ulti as well. So when your opponent has 4 3/3s coming at you, and now all of a sudden they're 8/8s, 32 points of damage, no land, no way of responding, it's really bad for them.
That's the flawless victory. That's what we like to have.
I love that victory. That is my crowning achievement for the day, is just being able to take away all of their resources and then swing in for 32 points of damage.
So would you say you kind of went this angle because without Ugin, you don't have the inevitability anymore? You just need more raw threats?
Yes. And there aren't many cards in Modern right now, at least in the metagame, that deal with planeswalkers that big. Yeah, Abrupt Decay can take care of Liliana of the Veil, maybe a couple others. Other than Dreadbore or maybe Hero's Downfall, there's not a lot they can do to a planeswalker that big. Burn isn't going to help unless they waste 2 burn spells usually to it, and more the usual removal won't do anything.
So you've got Kozilek's Return and Oblivion Stone as your removal. We've seen that before. And then, of course, you got your Stars and Sylvan Scrying and Map to kind of find your pieces.
Yep.
Let's move to the sideboard. You got another Planeswalker, or not Planeswalker, but might as well be one. Emrakul hiding out here. Then you've got your removal between Warping Whale and Pyroclasm, so you can kind of really gear up on the sweepers against the little decks.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, against those aggro matchups, Infect, Burn, all of those sweepers are going in. And oftentimes that does mean taking out 1 or 2 of my colored planeswalkers, but in the matchup where I need to be fast and effective, going with that traditional Tron style game is the necessary route.
Thragtusk is another kind of go-to answer, but Worldbreaker, we saw a lot of the decks shifting to having more copies of that card along with Ulamog. You have 1 copy in your sideboard, just more land destruction? Or? More
land destruction. Honestly, at this point, the Emrakul has been underperforming just because I can't search him out and cast him for less. So throughout the day, I've been realizing that when I wish I could have a Worldbreaker, I've had an Emrakul. So he will likely be cut for a second copy of Worldbreaker.
Of course, Crumble to Dust, the card a lot of people use against you, but you have some in your sideboard as well.
Yes, I do. Because, well, taking care of their land on turn 3 and all copies of it, actually pretty nice. Tron matchup. If I really want to be mean to them and say, hey, you're not going to be playing Tron this game, Crumble to Dust before they can do anything to me, that usually takes care of them.
All right. Kind of hit them when they're not expecting it. Exactly. And then, of course, you said you trimmed the relics, moved them to your sideboard.
Yes.
So you have them there to fight the graveyard strategies?
Yeah. Blue-white or Jeskai Control, I will bring those in. Abzan Collected Company, absolutely. Other than that, they're just there for draw on occasion and the occasional matchup where reanimation or recursion is a thing.
All right. Well, through 6 rounds, you're 4-2.
Yes.
You're ultimating planeswalkers that people don't expect to be seeing in this format, so I think you're doing things right.
Thank you very much.
Right, Alex?
I would just like to give a shout out to Team Cuba Gaming. I'm here with them today. They've been really supportive of me throughout this whole creation process, so I really appreciate them for helping me out. I appreciate for the opportunity to come here and meet you. It's been awesome.
Nice job. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Milwaukee.